Hello, and welcome to another video lecture in HSR130, Introduction to Language and Communication. Today, I would like to talk to you about bilingualism. So first, I will tell you about the reasons why we want to study bilingualism. Then we will talk about how do we define bilingualism, what is bilingualism, who is a bilingual. And then later on, I would also like to tell you about bilingualism in the world and bilingual education. So how bilingualism works in different countries and how that affects and is affected by education. So why do we study bilingualism? We have already talked a lot about language acquisition, and most studies in child language acquisition are actually conducted on monolingual children. So we specifically look at children who only have one language because it's easier to study that. Now, nonetheless, the real experience of children is usually that of being exposed to many different languages. So in reality, most children in the world live in a bilingual context. So when we study language development, we need to think about what the experience is for those children. We want to know how these children really learn the two languages. And second of all, another practical reason is that bilingualism affects education to a great extent, and we have to keep in mind the needs of bilingual children when devising education strategies. So it's important to study bilingualism so that countries can implement good education strategies for bilingual children. There are also theoretical reasons. Well, bilingualism can help us better understand language development in general. And to understand how two languages are used in one mind will tell us more about how the mind works and also how language works. So bilingualism is an important part of linguistic study. So then, what do we mean when we talk about bilingualism? Who is bilingual? We all know some words in other languages. So could we count as a bilingual somebody who knows how to use a few loanwords? Or is it okay to just have had some lessons in school? Or do you have to be comfortable talking in both languages? The definition that is usually used is that of a so-called balanced bilingual. So many people believe that we can only talk about bilingualism when people have two languages in one mind, kind of. So they have the ability to talk equally well on every possible topic in both languages. So how does that work? Which of these definitions is correct? Well, often when we look at people, we would say, well, pronunciation would be a good measure. If you sound like a native speaker in both languages, then you are bilingual. But in fact, when we look at native speakers, there are vast differences. So different native speakers have different pronunciations. So how can we expect people to have the same pronunciation as native speakers? Second of all, native speakers can't really distinguish foreign pronunciation from their area. So if the grammar is good, if the person can talk fluently, often it's hard even for a native speaker to tell whether they have a foreign accent. Well, another definition that we could think of would be to say, well, if they know the same number of words. But again, within native speakers, there are large differences in how many words they know. And these differences actually depend on the level of education. So the higher educated the person is, the more words they might have. But again, we can't talk about bilingualism based on just vocabulary size in both languages. So this idea of a fully balanced bilingualism, of two monolinguals in one head, this idea has many problems. First of all, we're saying that all native speakers are the same, and so then we try to find somebody who sounds like all native speakers, but all native speakers are not the same. Second of all, we would be assuming that all bilinguals are the same, but really bilingualism happens in many different contexts. Some people will be bilingual because of the family situation, having two parents speak different languages, and some people will be bilingual due to a school situation. There's a different language at school. And are they going to have the same exact bilingual skills? No, so we can't talk about the bilingual. There's going to be different types of bilinguals. Also, we have to assume that when you speak two languages, there's going to be some influence from one to another. So again, you can't just have two monolinguals in one head. You can't have two separate languages. They're going to be mixed. So none of them is going to be the same as for any monolingual person. So all of this means that a totally balanced bilingualism, that first very strict definition that we talked about, that probably does not exist. So what is bilingualism? Well, a more realistic definition would be to say, if you have the ability to function in both language contexts as successfully as monolinguals, that means you are bilingual. If you can function in two different contexts as well as a monolingual, then you are bilingual. So you don't have to have a perfect pronunciation. You don't have to have a specific number of words. You don't have to be able to talk equally well on every type of topic in both languages. No, you need to be able to use the two languages in the contexts that are necessary for you, that you have the need to function to the extent that allows you to function. So you can be more or less bilingual. It's not an on-off 0-1 category that you either are or aren't. You can be more bilingual, function better or less bilingual, but it's kind of a gradient category, a continuum. And so this really emphasizes the need. You need to have the need to use the two languages to become bilingual. And that is probably the most important thing. If you have the need to function in two languages and you are able to function in two languages, then you are bilingual. And this, of course, has implications for language acquisition. So children really will only become bilingual when they have the need to function in two languages. And in the next part of the lecture, I will tell you more about how bilingualism is represented in the world.